Well, welcome. Glad you showed up. And we're going to take some time to pray for folks. We want to pray, give some special attention towards those who already know that you suffered the loss of your home. And we also want to pray for those who don't know yet. We're locked out of our area. We can't go back in, but I was able to get a little sneak peek yesterday, and our home is safe. Actually, when I was in England and received word, of course, of the firestorm that we're experiencing, and was notified that our house is probably gone. And on one of the multiple flights that I had getting home, I was able to get online during the flight and got a notice from Benny that it was still there. So obviously we're grateful and thanking the Lord for that. It's a strange tension that we're in because we do rejoice with everyone who rejoices. And don't ever let, I want to say this in the most encouraging way. If you have joy over a situation, don't ever let somebody else's loss rob you of your joy. However, also do not abandon your privilege to stand with them in their loss and actually weep with those who weep. Because there's a moment for your own personal joy, but there's also the big need of the hour is just the pain of people around us. And to give adequate attention to that. In your heart, remain thankful. If your home was spared or situation was spared, remain thankful. You don't ever have to feel guilty because you have that. It's not that some are blessed by God and others are cursed. This whole thing, for several days now, we've heard and seen the voice of the devourer. You're about to hear the voice of the restorer. And that is going to capture the attention. This will last for days. That will last for years. And it's going to capture the attention of the region because the Lord will demonstrate himself strong. And so we don't want to miss our chance, though, to just love and serve people. And, if somebody's struggling with, why did this happen? I get that. I have zero answers on that kind of stuff. I just know that God didn't do it. It's the only thing I know. He's not the one who destroys. The Bible says that Satan came to kill, steal, and destroy. So this fire is the fingerprints of the enemy's work, not Jesus. He is the restorer. When the disciples wanted to call down fire on a city, their misuse of fire, Jesus said, "You don't know what spirit you're of." He was identifying. He said, "The Son of Man didn't come to take life, he came to give it." So those are the standards we live by. So I don't always understand what happened or why, but I do have a confidence. I rest in the goodness of God. I came home, honestly, ready to be with you today, just to be able to say, you know what, let's just celebrate the goodness of God. We lost, stuff was in our house, but let's celebrate the goodness of God. We got the good news, ours was spared. And I'm very thankful when others close to us actually lost theirs. But never do I want my own personal joy to rob me of the chance of just listening to the pain of another person. I don't need to demand them to come to my level of hope yet. That'll come. All we want to do in this moment is just serve and to care for, pray for those who have suffered loss. And that's the big deal. And, it's a crazy thing. When you have experiences like this in life, we know of some of our military that come home from and just struggle sometimes for years with what they dealt with. And I don't want to put this on the exact same level as the battlefield in Iraq or something. But I do want to say the same spirit of trauma tries to latch itself onto people's souls to just continuously drain them of hope, drain them of life, drain them of strength. And so we're going to pray. As we pray today, one of the things we're going to deal with is that whole issue of trauma, where the enemy would love to just sustain a person in that place of hopelessness. And I just believe that God is going to vindicate and restore. I want to read to you a prophetic word from Sean Bowles. I've been getting, by the way, calls and texts from friends all over the world. My goodness. Rodney Howard Brown sent me a notice. He told me to, in fact, let me find it here. I'll just read it to you. And a lot of these folks are sending financial gifts to help us with with our city. A lot of these ministries they're rocked by what's happening. And Rodney sent me this. He said, "Tell those much love and many blessings. Tell the people who lost their homes, the Lord is with them. They will build back better and be stronger than before." I do believe that. He takes us from glory to glory. And so we've got Rodney, and we've got Benny Hinn has become a friend, and he has written, and he and their teams are praying. We've got Cindy Jacobs has contacted us. Their army of warriors are praying. They've sent us videos. I've received videos of congregations and conferences in Singapore with video on their big screen of the fires here, and they are calling out to God for His solution here. In Indonesia, in Germany, in Holland, and literally all over the world. I don't know how many of you realize this, but Bethel isn't just a ministry that, of course, not everyone appreciates, but let's just talk about those who do. I had an unusual experience this week. We got blamed for the fire. I haven't caused a forest fire before, so that was a whole new experience for me. But it was our heretical stuff. So anyway, putting that aside, there are people out there that like us, and but here's the point I wanted to make. I don't know how many of you realize they don't just like Bethel as a ministry or what's going on here. There are, I think perhaps it could be said, tens of thousands of people around the world that consider this home. It's a very unusual thing. I've traveled for years. Something has happened in the last few years. They have just embraced this as though they're home. Some of them have never been here, but this is their home church. They're convinced of it. And when I go to visit, that's what they tell me. And so these people are. I mean, one group wrote me. They've called it 10-day fast. Their whole group, they're just fasting for 10 days. And they're praying for God to have mercy on this city and for just the gospel to triumph once again. And it's just a wonderful thing to see all these people that are very dear friends. And some of them I don't know well. Some of them very good friends. Mahesh Shavda, Mahesh and Bonnie, they are the prayer warrior-y people of the USA. And they are crying out to God for us on our behalf. And Peter McHugh, a dear friend in Melbourne, Australia, Mark Sharona in Florida. And they're just all over. Cheon, of course, and Randy Clark, and all these people. Leif Hetland led a crowd of 1,000 Norwegians in Norway crying out for God to bring breakthrough here. So we got the Norwegians covering us. We've got the Indonesians. They're just everywhere. And so literally we get to, here's the beautiful thing to me. I remember I used to have this little Volkswagen Bug, and it had, on its best day, it had 40 horsepower. There were worse days, so I don't know what it had then, but on its best day. And I remember, if you know, my mind just went blank. The Grapevine. I got the Grapevine and Buckhorn Summit mixed, and it was the Grapehorn Summit. If you've ever been over Grapevine going into LA, I would drive that little car put up this steep mountain, and a big old semi would pass me, and I would just pick up speed just because he passed me. He sucked me right into his draft. And I just found myself going faster. So I'd get behind these big old semis that are flying while I'm just putting down the road. And we've got some big old semis that are praying for us. You know, we do. And they're pulling us into their draft. They're pulling us into their faith. Sometimes when you're close to a problem, you visually become impressed with the size of the problem. And you actually need people who can't see it to pray. You do. You actually need people who don't see it to pray, because they're looking at something else. They're looking at a heavenly standard that has become the mandate. And so I'm so thankful for these dear friends. Bobby Connor, Bobby and Carolyn, Roy Fields, Matthew Vandersteen from the Netherlands, Robert Slerden, just on and on and on. And we've received notice from the Assemblies of God is sending their relief agency here to help Convoy of Hope. which is a major distribution thing, Operation Blessing from CBN. These major organizations, they just, so many of them, there's a disaster here, so they're serving. But they also have a real heart for you, for all y'all. And it really is their amen to what God is doing in and through Bethel. So I've got so many friends here just from around the globe. Maldonado, how many of you know of Apostle Maldonado in Miami? He's got a little home group there of about 30,000 people. And he's one of the great apostolic leaders of our country, leads a Hispanic movement. And so they are sending relief. They are sending checks in the mail. They're sending just to help us, help our city. Let me tell you what we plan to do. I won't give you amounts because it wouldn't be wise on my end. But Joe Wong even, who owns half the restaurants in town, is just a dear, dear friend. And he's reached out. He's offering his services as well. So they what was I going to tell you? I was just going to tell you, Sean Bowles. Yeah, but I was going to tell you something else. I won't forget that because I have it here. Say it again. Tell you what we're going to do. Thank you. Listen, I ran into my house and grabbed the cheese. You gotta give me a break. Sometimes you just do stupid things. I had this moment. I had somebody was able to kind of get me through the lines, and I ran into my house, grabbed a few things, and opened the refrigerator. There was some organic goat cheese. I grabbed it. I can drive 5 minutes and replace that, and I left things that are irreplaceable. But I got the cheese. So sometimes things don't work up here like they should. I think I already told you what one of our Bethel worship guys did. Some of you may have come in late. He wrote this Instagram thing. He said, he said, when I grabbed things, I was evacuated, not evicted, evacuated. He says, I made sure to grab my vintage Amy Grant albums and his Hillsong CDs from the 90s. And he forgot his passport and his underwear. So that's just classic. I think my wife wants to speak.
Yes. We're staying in a little...
Yes, indeed.
We're staying in a little studio apartment above a garage, and he came in yesterday with a bag of stuff, and he pulled out the cheese, and he goes, I got the cheese. I looked at him like, good.
What were you thinking? Or what weren't you thinking when you grabbed the cheese? Yeah. I right now can think of so many things I walked past to get the cheese. That just would have been so much smarter to grab. Comfort, yes, I was looking for comfort. That's what it was. Thank you, Kathy. What we're going to try to do is we're going to be serving every family, I believe, every family that suffered loss in our whole region. And the amount of what we're able to do, of course, is still up in the air. But the offering we're going to receive in a moment, the offering is to enable us to do just that. And let me read this word from Sean Bowles, since I started on that train about 3 hours ago. It's a tremendous word. He's such a dear friend, and he loves Bethel so much. And I am so indebted to him, so thankful. I'm writing this as a fire is out of control in one of my favorite places. I'm so saddened, praying for those who are suffering. Action through prayer and relief is needed. But I also want to draw a spiritual picture for your faith as you pray. 10% of the city of Redding, California, attends Bethel Church with Pastor Bill Johnson. The church has had an impact not only on its own city, but also different nations, as Bethel has inspired churches around the world. Right now, Bethel's own church building is being threatened, as well as thousands of houses, companies, hospitals, schools, farms, and other important things. By the way, it's the reason it couldn't be a evacuation center at the beginning, because we're not qualified. And we only have one road coming in and out, and it makes everyone here, it's a dangerous situation. since the fires turned the other way, now we're good. All right, but just so people know that. I'm urging you to pray for this great city, the surrounding towns, Shasta, Whiskeytown, among others, and the prayer of Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Before the greatest modern outpouring for charismatic and Pentecostalism, there was a great earthquake in San Francisco. It devastated the city, and believers began to pray and act. Some interpreted it as the voice of God wanting to wake up people to conviction. Others felt it was the enemy releasing hell because he knew heaven was about to visit and bring in more salvations than the world had seen in this generation. Here's an example from the earthquake. At 5:12 a.m. on the morning of April 18th, 1906, San Francisco, California was struck by a deadly, powerful earthquake. Most seismologists believe the quake exceeded 8.0 on the Richter scale. Though it only lasted between 45 and 60 seconds, the earthquake and subsequent shockings left over 3,000 people dead, destroyed 28,000 buildings, rendered over 250,000 people homeless. It's called the San Francisco earthquake. The devastating disaster caused panic throughout Southern California, and the saints of the newly formed Azusa Street Mission, who viewed the convulsions as a sure sign that God was going to pour out. So they took it as a sign. I'm going to use different language. These are the labor pains. It's not caused by the Lord, but the Lord always has the last say. He always has the last say. So here's the rest of Sean's word. All Christians began to see the opportunity to love and to help drown out fear. So they escalated evangelism, and Christians were the first responders all around California for relief. This was the stage that was set right before the next great awakening of America. This started in 1908 through many movements, most notably the Azusa Street Revival. Before God moves in power and might, we have seen a pattern in many revivals or waves of a pre-action on the earth. Depressions, natural disasters, wars, rumors of wars. Almost every time a whole region gets hit by something natural, man-made or enemy-initiated, the glory of God follows shortly after in unprecedented ways. I believe that what God will do in Redding shortly after this terrible week will be historic for the church at large and will help to bring about a window of evangelism and ingenuity to the church that will come across media, both Christian and secular. Breakthrough is imminent. Say that with me. Breakthrough is imminent. Ooh. Let's pray in the moment for the beautiful lives, the identity of the towns that are suffering, the resources for rebuilding, the state and national response. But let's also believe in faith that Redding in particular just got its next guaranteed installment of glory that will be exported to the nations. We're going to receive an offering right now, and we're going to spend the rest of the time praying for people. So I want to do this rather quickly. If you're prepared or able to give in this offering, can you grab that paper? The other one. Yeah, thanks, son. I hope this is it. It is not. Somebody removed my paper. It's not here. Bummer. Somebody took my notes. There's a thief in the house. All right. I will do the best I can from memory because I remembered the cheese. So you should all feel confident. All right. We're going to receive an offering. It's okay. I will just work with what I have. God knew that my memory was not trustworthy. And He's making that decree before everyone. So, all right. Here it is. We're going to receive an offering. And for those who maybe guess, anytime we receive an offering like this, even though we may have expenses in making it happen, we never take anything out of the offering. We always give 100% and sometimes maybe 110% as we'll add to it out of our own mission here. Special offering is for those who have lost everything. We plan to help to give everyone who lost everything something to help them just getting their personal lives back together. And we have the text to give method is usable for everyone. You need to put in the amount, then put the word Bethel, space, put car fire as one word. Car, two R's, and then whatever the amount is, put that in there. For our international guests, text to give doesn't work for you. So if there are international guests that want to give and want to do it online, then you can email giving@bethel.com. The word giving@bethel.com. All right? Beautiful.
Thanks for listening to the Sermon of the Week. This weekly podcast is now being translated to several languages. Visit podcasts.ibethel.org.